this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Rewards programs are a lot like pop culture. They can be hard to keep up with. But with Venmo's new rewards program, Venmo Stash, rewards are so easy because the more you do, the more you get. And you choose the bundle of brands you get cash back at. It's giving fiscal queen. It's giving star. It's giving up to 5% cash back at your favorite brands. Just pick a bundle of your go-to spots to shop with your Venmo debit card and earn cash back at them. Do more, get more with Venmo Stash. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Venmo Stash bundle terms and exclusions apply. Max $100 cash back per month. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms.
When people turn to healthcare for weight loss, they're looking for real support. That's why more people are choosing OrderlyMeds.com. Orderly Meds connects you with real doctors and access to proven GLP-1 medications like semaglutide and tirzepatide. No guessing, just a more supportive experience. And all shipped directly to your door in discreet packaging. Do your research. Ask questions. Then visit OrderlyMeds.com/podcast for an exclusive offer. That's OrderlyMeds.com/podcast. Individual results may vary, not medical advice. Eligibility required. See site for details.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Moore. A couple of years back, I had a television producer reach out to me. And listen, I'm going to give you a little dirty inside secret here, y'all. I get these calls, right, from various producers with these different platforms that are out there, and they're saying, hey, we're looking for a forensics guy. Hoping you could join us and come to this location and read over this document, and we want you to make an appearance. You know, it's like where you're a talking head, and sometimes I'll even go out to scenes. But there was one that had actually intrigued me that I was supposed to be going to, and it never happened. As a matter of fact, if you tune in, I think this year, I'm actually on for like the third or fourth year in a row on Buried in the Backyard on Oxygen. And they had me going to Detroit because there was a body that was actually buried in a basement. I've never been to Detroit, and it gets a bad rap, I know, and maybe justly, I have no idea, but I've always wanted to go because I've always been fascinated with cars and just that world up there, just to see it. But it didn't happen. But you know, today we're going to talk about some cases, and I say cases that originate out of Detroit that I have just found out about, and it involves a house again, and possibly a basement. The only difference is that these remains are not buried. And guess what? The cause of death involves a hammer. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Dave, I want to tell you a story real quick. one of the worst cases, and I say worst, it's, that's highly subjective. Okay. But I think that there are cases out there that I handled as an investigator that kind of sent a chill up my spine, because I wouldn't just see the victims dead at the scene and that they're like, subjects that I have to examine. Every now and then I'd see a peak of humanity that would come through. And this case that I'm referring to right now is something I worked on, and it did involve 3 guys, and they were all forced to sit on a love seat, which generally accommodates 2 people, right? And these are grown men. This is a drug hit. I've never had anything like this. And they were made to interlock arms at the elbows. And each one of them were executed. They were each shot in the forehead with a .357 Magnum. Now, that's a revolver. And I've seen a lot of bloody scenes, but I've never seen anything with this kind of projected deposition, because each one of these rounds on all 3 of these guys exited, and it painted the walls all behind them and on the back of the love seat, and they were leaning into one another. And I always thought, a revolver is not a semi-automatic weapon, so it takes a bit longer to actuate the trigger. It's double action, so you pull the trigger, the revolver portion of it, the cylinder actually spins, and then the hammer drops. And this is done over and over. And I thought, well, if you're the first guy, it's kind of merciful. But if you're the third guy, it's coming. And it got me into that mindset with that case. And, for years, I've still thought about that case. And to the best of my knowledge, that case has never been solved.
We're going to have to look that one up.
Yeah, no kidding. And so,
but wait a minute, did they make them stay arm in arm? Were they still linked when the bodies were found?
They were still linked. And that's why I always thought it was a drug hit. And I'm not going to go into the organization that it was linked to at the time. But I've always felt as though there were because these guys were big dudes, man. I've always thought that there was a large group of people that were in the room, because how are you going to force 3 guys to interlock arms and sit in that one position? If there's one guy holding a gun on you, you would think that the other 2 could get up and bum rush the guy. That didn't happen. I always thought that there was a group of people, and dude, there was weed everywhere in this apartment, and they were making blunts. Blunts are the cigars where you pull out the tobacco and you restuff it with weed. And apparently they were, they were shorting the supplier. They were not paying over their due to the supplier. And, this is what wound up happening. But, the case that we're covering out of Detroit today, I'm not going to say it's equally as horrific, because I wasn't at this house in Detroit, but I got to tell you, it had echoes in my brain as we were reading over this.
Well, it's interesting that this case actually began with police on a missing persons case. The police show up on the south side of Detroit and they're looking for a missing person. And while they're asking neighbors, it's an old neighborhood. As a matter of fact, one of the neighbors has been there for 60 years. Another has been there for 12. So you're talking people who know one another. They know one another's routines. And when the police were talking, while they're trying to find out about the missing person, somebody walks up to him and he says, he has just been assaulted. The man does. This guy has just been beating me with a hammer. And by the way, there's some dead bodies in that house right there.
Yikes.
Points to the house that they're standing in front of. And the cop's like, wait a minute. A dude beat you with a hammer?
Yeah.
And now there's dead bodies in that house? Yep. And so the police go into the house, Joe. And the home was on Edsel Street. And being Detroit Ford Motor Company, the Edsel.
Yep.
I wonder how many other streets are named like that. I have no idea.
Fairlane.
Yeah.
Fairlane. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, there's
Fort
tons
Fairlane
of
was a movie in the early 90s, right?
Yeah.
At any rate, the man tells the officers about the dead guys in the house. So the officers go inside. Now, to be honest with you, they don't really know what they're walking into. They just know that this guy claims he was beaten, he's been assaulted, and there's dead bodies in the house. The police described this, Joe, in such a way that I made a note to ask you about it, because I don't recall seeing police officers, when they tell you about a crime scene, they might talk about very obvious evidence. They might give you an idea of where a victim was standing or laying when they were found, give you a basic lay of the land. But rarely did they go so far as to describe blood or even the extent of the brutality that you're walking into. Again, this is just what normal police, how they talk to the press and what have you. In this particular case, Joe, the police described this as the victims were brutally assaulted, their bodies wrapped in towels and carpeting. And actually, it wasn't towels and carpeting. Some of it was just old clothing. It was just nasty stuff. But there was blood everywhere. The bodies were in the basement. But they had been dead for at least a day, Joe. And there was blood everywhere. Now, if police know people are dead, in this case, they're not going anywhere, and we've got a massively bloody crime scene, is that when you get the call to come in, or is there another pathway to that?
No, that would be when we would come in. That call would be initiated with, in a case like this, the beat officer that responded, he wouldn't even have to wait to call the detectives and say, hey, should I call the medical examiner? And by the way, they've got a fantastic medical examiner's office in Detroit. As a matter of fact, that's the home of the man that we did a profile on, Dr. Werner Spitz. He was the chief ME in Detroit. I think that's Wayne. I think that's Wayne County. So yeah, they've got a great reputation up there. But yeah, the ME would have been notified, I would imagine, by the beat unit, the uniform officer out there. They would have said, look, get me the ME, get me CID, and get me crime scene en route immediately, forthwith, as they say. And they would have locked this thing down. The good thing about it is, with a scene
what
like
is CID,
this,
Joe? You said
CID is Criminal Investigation Division. And you'll hear CID, but in Detroit, they actually have a homicide division. Many people don't understand that even medium-sized police departments, they don't have homicide detectives. They will have, it's broken down into two groups many times. They'll have crimes against persons and crimes against property. And so the detectives that work crimes against persons will do assaults, batteries, sexual assault, rape, and homicide. Okay. And then crimes against property, might be burglary, car theft, any number of things like that, because they don't have enough personnel to subspecialize. You get into a larger department like Detroit, and they've got a very well-known homicide bureau. Okay. Do you remember old Dragnet? Joe Friday would say it was a Friday, and I was working out of the robbery homicide division, Yeah. And so robbery has always been considered a violent crime. It's a personal crime. Robbery is different than burglary. So robbery means that you are physically taking something from somebody. And so that's indicative of the personal crime there. Wow. So and it's interchangeable. You'll hear people say CID, you'll hear people say homicide. In this case, I probably misspoke. He's probably going to call the homicide division. And they're going to roll out there. And in this type of situation, I would imagine that once the detective arrives and the ME investigator is there, they're going to do what is called an initial scene walkthrough. That means you're not necessarily going to take any photographs. You're not going to do any kind of measurements. It'll be the ME investigator, the detective, and probably the first responding officer, and you will do a very cursory walkthrough of the scene. And that way you can get that space kind of organized in your brain. You see what I'm saying? And then you step back out. Now, this is going to be in the wake of probably ordering up a warrant, to have the warrant written up, and then they'll do the walkthrough at that point in time, because you can't really search a scene without a warrant. It doesn't matter if bodies are there. There is no constitutional exception for homicide, which is something that people need to get into their brain. And you have people that lose their minds over this thing. They think that just because just because there's a dead body at the scene that the Constitution suddenly melts away. It doesn't. As a matter of fact, it needs to be further enforced at that point in time. But so that's kind of what happens. And when you would walk into this, when I would do initial scene walkthroughs, it really steadies your mind and gives you an idea as to what I'm going to be faced with. And there might be certain things you see in there that when you exit, before you actually do start your investigation internally, you might have to call on other resources. Like, do I have enough lights, for instance? We're in a basement. Does this house even have electricity? Are we going to have to call the fire department to bring a light truck out? Does crime scene have portable lights they can put up? Where can we position them so we're not going to disrupt any kind of evidence? Do I need to call specialists in forensics? You know, those sorts of things. Do I have all of the tools that I need with me to process that scene? And it's not just one body, Dave. We're talking about 3 bodies here, all right? And according to what we're hearing, there's been an effort to hide these bodies, okay? It's not like they're sitting on the front porch, all right? And I'm not being disrespectful by saying that. Somebody has gone and taken these bodies and placed them into this basement. And I would imagine that for the detective, when they arrive, after having heard this story from this police officer that it was first reported to, believing had to be seen.
Sink into affordable luxury. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out. With stain-resistant slip covers and a cloud-like frame duvet, everything goes right in the wash. Plus, the modular design lets you change the look of your space anytime. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your home. Shop up to 60% off site-wide, with sofas starting at just $699 and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
When people turn to healthcare for weight loss, they're looking for real support. That's why more people are choosing orderlymeds.com. Orderly Meds connects you with real doctors and access to proven GLP-1 medications like semaglutide and tirzepatide. No guessing, just a more supportive experience. And all shipped directly to your door in discreet packaging. Do your research. Ask questions. Then visit orderlymeds.com/podcast for an exclusive offer. That's orderlymeds.com/podcast. Individual results may vary, not medical advice. Eligibility required. See site for details.
Magnesium supplements? You've mastered the basics. Now it's time to optimize. If you're serious about dialing in your health, upgrading your magnesium isn't optional. It's the key to leveling up your whole body. That's where Solaray Magnesium Glycinate comes in. MagGly from the #1 magnesium brand in health food stores. Solaray has a 50-year legacy of delivering quality and trust in every capsule. Each ingredient is triple tested for identity, purity, and potency in Solaray's GMP certified facility in Ogden, Utah. That means what's on the label is what's in your bottle. No guesswork. Just premium MagGly. Plus, it's chelated in-house for powerful muscle, bone, and relaxation support that's designed for optimal absorption and gentle digestion. It's the upgrade your routine's been waiting for. Shop Solaray Magnesium Glycinate on Amazon or Solaray.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Dave, when it comes to hammers, I've have a fascination. I have to, my inner nerd comes out, and this is why it does. I don't, people will ask me, what true crime shows do you watch? What things do you listen to, and, podcasts and all that stuff. And no insult to any of my colleagues out there in the world of true crime. I just don't. I do it so much, and I love doing it. But when I watch stuff, Kim will say, "What are you watching on YouTube?" I'm like, "It's a medieval history thing." She'll say, "How do you watch that?" Yeah. And one of the things that I do enjoy watching is kind of the story of England and France and their development, and also the armor that their armies wore, some of the weapons and things. The hammer itself is an ancient weapon that has been used, I don't know, I'll put it to you this way. I don't think he necessarily had a hammer. If you've ever heard of Judah Maccabee, who's a grand hero of the Jews, I think, and I've got a rabbi friend out there in Mobile, Alabama. Big shout out to him. I hope I'm saying this correctly, Rabbi. The word or the name Maccabee, I think, actually translates roughly in Hebrew to hammer. And it's almost like hammer of God. And so the name has been around for a while. We have the prevalence of the weapon. You've got it going back as far as like the 4th or 5th century in the Common Era. But, the hammer itself came in 2 forms, the war hammer. You had a shorter war hammer that guys on horseback, the cavalry, would carry. And guess what it had, Dave? As we developed armor, it had a spike on one end, and then it had the blunted edge. So the idea was with the blunted edge, you would concuss the person. Like you would strike them in the head and kind of knock them silly. Say if they had a helmet on. And then they had this really, I'm going to send you a photo of this afterwards. They had this really nasty spike on one end. And so you can imagine you're running full tilt. Can you imagine these guys on horseback in a battlefield going full tilt? And they've got a hammer that's probably about 3 feet. The handles might be 2.5, 3 feet in length, and it's got this huge head on it. And they just swing down with that spike, and it would penetrate just about any kind of armor. So not only is it
that these guys late at night sitting around the campfire telling tales, they're not sitting there singing "If I Had a Hammer."
No, this is not Peter, Paul, and Mary. No.
This is scary. But what you're describing to me is a hammer like no other, but it's a hammer that's a weapon. And the hammers that we have now are not that dissimilar. It's got a spike on the end and a flat end too.
No, they're not. And
scaring me.
Wax
this is what you watch. This is what Joseph Scott Morgan watches at home on YouTube on the links to the little short videos.
There's utility. There's utility with weapons. What's the verse in the Bible that talks about you're going to beat your swords into plowshares or whatever it is, that time of peace and all that. Well, conversely, there are a lot of things that are out there. I think that even in some Asian cultures, the scythe itself, which is that reaping tool that you use, that was actually adopted and used as a weapon of war. So yeah, there's kind of a lot of cross communication between weapons and stuff that we've used in the field to build houses and grow crops and all that stuff. Plowshares, that's what I said. Plowshares. That's what I was thinking about.
Was it a weapon or was it a tool first? The thing is, if it was a tool first, then what kind of sicko turned it into a weapon? And if it was a weapon first, what sicko turned it into a tool?
I got a great one for you while we're going down this road, and I'll be quiet after this. But you remember, and I can't remember this guy's first the name, but I know you're going to remember the case. Do you remember the case out of Iowa where the guy took the corn rake?
Yes.
And he killed his wife with it. All right.
Yes, he did.
Now, that is a nasty bit of business. If you guys are not, I did an episode on this case. Todd, I think was his first name, the perpetrator. I did an episode of Body Bags early on about this case. And when you see this corn. I didn't really know what a corn rake was. And when I saw this thing, it was just absolutely hideous. And the pain that this woman must have gone through, because I think he took it out and then stuck it in again. A horrible way to die. But yeah, all of these tools, some tools have multiple utility. And in this case, the police are saying that there has been a hammer used. And I've worked hammer cases. I've worked cases where people have been beaten to death. But when I say people, I mean people in the, let's see, how can I rephrase this so my English teacher from high school won't get on to me? People in the singular, like a person, not three people.
Right.
And we're talking about three people here, Dave.
And they're all over 60. Now, the reason that's important, okay, is because when you think of three people dying in such a bloody manner and having their bodies covered, to disguise them in some way, to hide them in a basement, in a neighborhood that has people who've been living there for decades, the idea that there were 60-year-old plus men and they were all older, and what happened before, what transpired to make this event take place in this home? And all I could think of is, does anybody know where the devil was the day this happened? Yeah. Because we're talking about the devil himself.
Yeah, dig it.
Who would do, what kind of person looks at Norman Hamlin, 66 years old, Mark Barnett, 65 years old, and William Barrett, 72 years old. Those were the three men, the youngest of them 65, all of them dead, all of them slaughtered in that basement, in that house. Did it happen one at a time? Were they, or were they all, like you mentioned, the guys on the couch on the left seat locking arms?
Yeah.
I mean, what happened? How are you going to find out who died first?
Oh my Lord, it's going to be very difficult. And when you said, you'd mentioned one day that they were throwing out the idea that this is one day downrange from when the bodies are found. They think they've been dead for that period of time.
Right.
Okay. With an attack like this, the first word that comes to mind for me is luring. I'm wondering how these men of a certain age and you got to think, when you get to be this age, you're rather worldly. How do you get these worldly guys that have been around the block? And trust me, dude, they've been living in Detroit. You're telling me that you're going to entice them to come into the house? What would entice them to come into that house? Did they know? Were they familiar with the home? Were there things that went on in that home that they had in common? Did they live in the neighborhood? Did they have connectivity with anybody that was capable of this level of violence? And who in the world? How in the world could these three men elicit such violence from a person upon them? What in the world did they do to deserve to be beaten to death with a hammer? Not just one guy, not just two, but three. And look, you started off the show, Dave, talking about you got one guy walking down the street. And he's the one that approaches the cops and says, "Hey, I was just being attacked with a guy with a hammer." Yep. That's not a story you hear every day, man.
No, and the thing is that's where it was so weird when I was looking at this, because normally, we have the crime scene and we have the victims and we know who the suspect is. But in this case, the cops are there for a totally different reason. They're not there for this crime. They're there looking for a missing person, And in this particular case, we've got a man named Lance Clowney II. He's 27 years old. And Mr. Clowney II was arrested on the assault charge on the guy that came out to the cops. Hey, this guy was beating me. Okay. Now, when they arrested Mr. Clowney, they found him with a hammer in his car. They found out a number of things about Mr. Clowney. Okay. They found out that Mr. Clowney, Joseph Scott Morgan, Mr. Clowney had been arrested by 27 years old now in 2026, right? So think about this for just a minute. In 2017, that would be 9 years ago, when the young man was 18 years old. When Mr. Clowney was 18 years old, he was convicted of armed robbery and carjacking. sentenced to 5 to 15 years in prison. He got out on parole. While out on parole, he was picked up possession of a firearm unlawfully, because who's not allowed to have a firearm?
Well, it's going to be a felon.
Yeah. Yeah. Convicted felons and parolees can't have them. He was also convicted of evading police during his time on parole. And by the way, Mr. Clowney II was still on parole for the carjacking and armed robbery case in 2017 when he was arrested for the brutal assault of the man who wasn't dead. Now, let me add this to everything, Joe. Clowney, he pleaded guilty to that assault and the carjacking years ago. But here we have him in 2026. He was released in January of 2025. Didn't even make it a full year, really. Well, I guess he did. He did make it a year before he allegedly beat somebody so bad. He has not yet been charged with the murders of the 3 men. I want to point that out.
Yeah.
Now, he has been arrested, and he is currently charged with the assault with intent to murder and assault with a dangerous weapon, the hammer, on the man who found the police and told him there's dead bodies in there. The charges related to the homicide have not been filed yet, but judge has denied bond, and Clowney was deemed a threat to the community by the prosecutors, and so he's not getting out on bond. He's not getting out.
Thank the Lord. I mean, you got two choices in life. You can either take a hammer and you beat your neighborhood or beat your neighbors to death with it, or you can get a job and swing your hammer as a finishing hammer on a construction crew. What's your choice here? And so you think about this, and you think about the harm that has been done. And Dave, if I'm not mistaken, they also found him in possession of a baseball bat as well.
And by the way, 3 phones in his car: the hammer, the baseball bat, and 3 phones. Oh, wait a minute. How many dead bodies do we have in the basement, Joe? 3.
Well, we've got 3. Yeah, we do. I got to tell you, this hammer, I'm really hoping, you know where I'm going to go with this, but I'm really hoping that the hammer has been appropriately taken care of, because you talk about an evidence-rich item, not to mention any kind of clothing that Mr. Clowney may have had on his person. Because let me tell you, and the baseball bat too, because I got to tell you, I've worked baseball bat cases, and they are a highly effective bludgeon. All right. I mean, you can really go to work on somebody with one of these things and in their life. As a matter, I think I've told you this, the first homicide I ever participated in the autopsy of was a guy that had been beaten to death by his brother with a baseball bat in the front yard. That was a long, long time ago. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, I've had experience in this, and you've got all these multiple surfaces relative to these items. So let's kind of break down the hammer. You think about the hammer, and we've got 4 people, okay? We've got the living guy that reports this. Mm-hmm. And then we've got the 3 guys down in the basement. So right now, there are a number of cases out there in the public where people are talking about DNA mixtures, okay? You talk about a prime example here, because if this hammer has been used multiple times, and let me throw this at you if you think that's interesting. What if there's somebody else out there that is not accounted for at this point in time? Somebody else that may have been walking down the street. Maybe there's another victim somewhere in some other location that's dead, and this guy never cleans the hammer up, or the alleged perpetrator might not ever clean the hammer up. You're going to have a DNA mixture on the surface. It'll be on the head of the hammer, the claw, if it is a claw hammer, the actual blunt surface. You're going to have it on the handle. It'll be everywhere. This thing will just be covered in DNA. And it's going to be a mixture, and it will take time. It will take time in order to try to unspool that, because when you read the examination of sourcing of DNA out of something like this. DNA, I was just talking about this earlier this week in regards to the Guthrie case. DNA actually works on a frequency, kind of like a radio frequency. And it's a one-way frequency that kind of goes down, if you'll just imagine coaxial cable, and it's only going in one direction, okay? So you know how radio waves have peaks and valleys, if you look at them like on an oscilloscope or whatever? Well, DNA, when it's being processed, actually has peaks and valleys. And different DNA from different subjects peaks at different locations, okay? So what you have to do is these things are overlapping and overlying, so you have to kind of it's like an exploded view. You have to separate out those peaks, okay? And that will delineate between whose DNA this is, all right? And so, and not to, one person I forgot to mention, whoever's wielding the hammer. So you might have degraded DNA from that person because if they're not cut and they don't have a rich source of DNA, let's say it's touch DNA, like skin, dead skin cells, that DNA is going to be on there as well.
What about spit and sweat and everything else from the suspect?
Yeah, it very well could be. You could have not just blood deposition. Oh, let me tell you what else you find on hammers too. And I have seen this over and over, Dave, and it's because of blood has a tackiness to it. I'm not going to say it's exactly like glue, but if you've ever been around blood, you'll notice that blood will capture other items. With hammers in particular, this is what I found on them. I found bone shards. I found pieces of scalp tissue, found muscle, and hair, entire clumps of hair where the scalp, for instance, has been lacerated to the point where the hair completely comes out on a piece of lacerated scalp where it's attached to. Now I found singular strands of hair as well. It gets so incredibly, it's overwhelming when you think about everything kind of has to be worked apart in this case. Just on the hammer alone, I'm thinking about the baseball bat as well. And then anything that's contained, because I think that he has a vehicle. This individual has a vehicle, and these items along, you said the 3 phones, they're going to be in there. I want to know if there's any trace blood on the phones, Dave, because here's what I'm thinking. Is this guy allegedly attacked these guys and he's not wearing gloves? Then after he's attacked each person, just follow me here, give me a little rope. If he attacks each person and he goes back and pulls the phone out of their pocket, does that phone have blood deposition from the non-owner of the phone? Let's say one of the other victims, because he's gone by with his filthy hands and he's pulled the phones out of their pocket after he's killed them. And maybe he killed them in a short period of time, and that's a great explainer there, like maybe you could get down to sequencing with that. When you think about it, we know that this man was dead. By the time he got his phone, it had this fella's blood on it. You see what I'm saying? And so you can kind of sequence this thing out. There's going to be a myriad of physical evidence in this case. And I'm not just talking about the hammer injuries that have left behind and anything else that happened. I can tell you, though, that whatever happened in that house or in that basement will have left a mark on the floors and the walls. And you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about blood.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
When people turn to healthcare for weight loss, they're looking for real support. That's why more people are choosing orderlymeds.com. Orderly Meds connects you with real doctors and access to proven GLP-1 medications like semaglutide and tirzepatide. No guessing, just a more supportive experience. And all shipped directly to your door in discreet packaging. Do your research. Ask questions. Then visit orderlymeds.com/podcast for an exclusive offer. That's orderlymeds.com/podcast. Individual results may vary, not medical advice. Eligibility required. See site for details.
You already take magnesium. Smart move. But here's the thing. Not all Mag-Gly is created equal. Solaray's magnesium glycinate is fully chelated, never blended or buffered. That means it's actually designed for optimal absorption and gentle digestion. If you're ready to upgrade your muscle, bone, and relaxation support, choose a quality Mag-Gly that's perfectly chelated for ultimate absorption. Shop Solaray Magnesium Glycinate on Amazon or solaray.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Dave, this is for these cops that went into this environment, to the ME personnel, even by ME personnel standards, this is a horror show. This is a nightmare. I can tell you just by virtue of what they're seeing in there.
I asked you about this before we started because I wanted to know. It really did strike me as odd the way the police officers described the scene in such bloody terms. We just don't normally hear that. And that's why I asked you about it, if that was common, because I didn't think it was. But what are they talking about? How bloody is this going to be with three men? Now, we're going to assume a couple of things here, okay? Because we do have 3 dead men.
Yeah.
They were disguised by wrapping in clothing, carpet, what have you, anything that could be managed to put on top of them and around them. But there's enough blood that 2 officers have said this is horsing. We've got another man who was assaulted with a hammer who runs down the cops. And we have our suspect who we know has assaulted and battered before. He has used a hammer before, and we know that he is in the suspect's car is a hammer, a bat, and 3 phones. Now, as I need to know how much blood we're talking about because I don't know. But on top of that, how are you going to tell, Joe, the way that the cast-off comes from a baseball bat versus a hammer? Yeah. I'm just curious, morbidly curious, because even if he cleans those up, there's still going to be blood mix on the bat and the hammer, right?
Yeah, there would be. I think that would be kind of difficult to discern when you think about a bat and swinging a bat, and you're an old baseball player. You know that with a bat, when you swing a bat, you can probably generate more energy than you can with a hammer. All right. And this is why, because you've got this long lever essentially that you're swinging. So it builds up velocity. You know, when you, like, if you think of some guy, well, we're in Detroit, we'll talk about Cecil Fielder when he was the king of SWAT there, you know, and he's crushing the ball. Well, when Cecil would hit that ball, all right, and he would crush that ball, the velocity of his bat contacting that ball and sending it, 420 feet out in the outfield. Oh my Lord, I can't even imagine. Is something to behold. You're not going to achieve that same amount of velocity with, say, a hammer, all right, because the lever is not as long. Now, as far as the cast off and everything, that would really be a bit outside of my bailiwick relative to how that deposition is going to occur. I'm sure that it would probably be a bit more broad ranging, and here's why. A bat has more surface area than a hammer does. So ergo, if I took a paintbrush, if I took a let's just say that I took a medium-sized paintbrush that I'm going to do trim work with and dipped it in the paint bucket and sloshed it,
right, as
opposed to taking the paintbrush I'm going to, Tom Sawyer paintbrush that I'm painting a fence with, big, wide, whitewashing brush. I've got more volume of blood on there. So, but I think that fine detail would be very difficult to discern. The key here, though, is to get those items and test them as quickly as you possibly can. Well, secure them, make sure that they're solid. As far as security goes, that there's no chance they're going to degrade or anything like that. As far as the scene itself, though, this is going to be so highly complex, Dave. Let's just say that the attack started upstairs. We know that they happened downstairs. So let's, just for a moment, let's say that they're attacked upstairs. Well, in order to convey these bodies, and they will be bleeding or oozing blood. Okay, I hate to say bleeding because you're assuming that somebody's been beaten to death with a hammer. They're no longer pumping blood, but they're dripping blood. That blood, at the initial attack, you're going to see this dynamic distribution all over the place. It will be on the ceilings. It will be on the walls. It will be on any items that are in there. Just say if you're in an upper room and you've got an ashtray, you've got a coffee table, you've got an old mug laying around, you can find cast off there. It'll be everywhere. And if they're all attacked in the same spot, again, you're going to have commingling of the blood there. And then with the dynamic blood deposition there, you might have overlay of blood from one person to the next, because the dynamic is completely different. You're doing this kind of dance of death. Person doesn't want to get hit with the hammer, so they're kind of twisting and turning. Nobody stands still to be hit with a hammer. Even the first strike is generally not going to take somebody down. It's like the guy that walked up, right?
Right.
You'll have a sudden awareness, and you'll flinch, and you'll readjust their body. And this guy's on top of you like a wild man. Right. So this is going to be very dynamic. And then you've got to get those bodies down to the basement. So how do you do that? Well, do you cradle them in your arms? Or do you drag them by their ankles where they're going boom, 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 boom down the staircase? And every little bump and jostle along the way, you're depositing blood. But that's not going to be like real dynamic. It'll just be kind of a transfer blood. Then you've got these wrappings, Dave, which is kind of fascinating because when this case first came out, and I think I told you this, when the first reports came out, they said the bodies were wrapped in carpet.
Yep.
And I was thinking, gee whiz, how much carpet does this person have if they're going to wrap 3 individual bodies?
I was thinking the same thing when you told me carpet. And I'm like, well, I'll have to. So I found the article that you were talking about with the carpeting. Yeah. And what it was, it appears that the clothing and the rags and things that were thrown on the men, on the 3 dead bodies, and they were kind of rolled around in them, that because there was so much blood, Joe, that it was mistaken for carpeting. Because it didn't look like separate pieces of cloth or shirts or whatever. And so I'm thinking blood covered.
Yeah. And here's another thing. This is really horrible. And I hope this isn't the case. I don't wish for death for anybody, but I wish for a painless death and a quick death. Dave, if this perpetrator took those guys down there and they were still alive, they could have very well been bleeding out into those rags and that carpeting. As the last bits of life left them. We don't know. We do know that they believe that these individuals were down for at least a day. Right. So they've done some kind of postmortem interval assessment on them. Thank goodness, Dave, that they have somebody in custody. Now, this individual, according to what we're hearing, has not been charged with 3 homicides. He's been charged with the assault on the other gentleman, correct?
And attempted murder. Assault assault with intent to murder and assault with a dangerous weapon.
Right.
While on parole, too.
Yeah, and thank the Lord, he's off the streets. And do we know what the status is? I would assume that they're going to have some kind of appearance coming up in the next week or so.
he's going to be back in front of a judge in May, and I'll follow up on it.
Yeah, we need to about this case, because I got to tell you, I'm so fascinated by the fact that you would have. It's one thing, we go back to the earlier thing that that case that I told you about with the three guys on the love seat. Gunshot wounds are one thing, but to have three individuals that are deceased and one that was grievously injured by hammer, I got to know more. Friends, we're going to keep you up to speed on this case. And until then, I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? Wash away your worries with Anabay. Anabay is the only machine washable sofa inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabric. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Shop WashableSofas.com for up to 60% off site-wide, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change, and certain restrictions may apply.
Are you a fraud-paying American? 1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has been a victim of identity fraud. With LifeLock, if your identity is stolen, they fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Last year, billions in refunds were stolen. Could be from your salary, overtime, or second job. Gone. But this year, you don't need to stay a victim, because this tax season, fraud-paying American is something no American should have to claim. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/iHeart. Terms apply.
When people turn to telehealth for weight loss, they're looking for real support. That's why more people are choosing OrderlyMeds.com. Orderly Meds connects you with real doctors and access to proven GLP-1 medications like semaglutide and tirzepatide. No guessing, just a more supportive experience, and all shipped directly to your door in discreet packaging. Do your research, ask questions, then visit OrderlyMeds.com/podcast for an exclusive offer. That's OrderlyMeds.com/podcast. Individual results may vary, not medical advice. Eligibility required. See site for details.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.